Have you been in pain after a minute or two of talking? Have you been in immediate pain when you talk too loud? Have you tried eating bigger portions of food or drinking hot drinks and your throat has problems? Well, if so, this is the video to help you. Hey guys, my name is Pan Michael and welcome to another video on my channel. So today we are going to be talking about what you can do to help alleviate problems with your throat. Now, problems with the throat, what could that mean? So there's two main parts to throat problems. One is your food pipe, so the upper sphincter where the food goes through, and that is in your throat, and also your vocals, which is what helps you talk, obviously, or sing or shout or whatever have you. But that is on the trachea side, the side that the air goes down to get to your lungs. And of course, you have the emotional side of things to think about, which is not located in your throat, but massively impacts either side of the throat. So yeah, how did my problem come about? So in Christmas of 2022, I had a throat infection, and that went on for about a good 2 weeks, and then it went away, and then a week or two later it came back, and it just wouldn't go away for months. Now, at first, I only really felt the normal kind of throat restriction, and I had congestion and inflammation and things like that. So the normal kind of things you would with a throat infection. However, as it started to go away, I started noticing that my throat just wasn't the same. Here are sort of the main problems that I started to see coming up. One problem was I couldn't speak for very long. Now, every time I would start talking, even with a normal tone like this, I would find that I could talk for about a minute or two at worst, and then my throat would really start being in pain. The other thing was I couldn't shout. Literally, if I projected my voice, I would be in so much pain immediately. So that was another thing. Another problem that I faced was that every time I would eat, especially when I ate really big portions, or say when I would drink hot drinks or have hot soups or hot food in general, I think that would really not be good for the food side of things. I would, when I ate big portions, I would feel that I would feel like things were stuck in my throat. I would start feeling like there was a ball in my throat. And then when it came to drinking either hot drinks or having things like soups, I would feel that like I had an irritation after, or it would almost be like, say you have a tea that's too hot and it's burning your tongue. I would start feeling that in the throat, but literally it may not even been like the hottest of drink or the hottest of soups to literally burn my throat. So it was really bad. And then after the year, I think things kind of calmed down, but they were still there. And then that's when, you know, I really started getting worried. In fact, 6 months in really is when I really started getting worried, because I was finding that things were just not going away. So I've got some advice on this today from what I found works for me. So let's dive in and see how I can help you guys. So guys, this video is basically going to be talking about the things that I find can make the throat worse. So in essence, ways to get better is kind of knowing those problems and eliminating them, or lowering the amount of that thing. So, right, let's go into it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today, guys, is the vocals, right? So that is the air side of things, not the food side. So the biggest problem really when I was going through the throat issues was that I could barely speak without being in pain. And also if I tried to shout, so if I tried to project my voice, I would be in really, really bad pain immediately. So shouting was a no, and then talking was literally like talking low tone, or literally just don't talk at all. Like literally every day I wouldn't speak and things like that. It would feel way better because basically you weren't using your muscles in your throat, so things were relaxing. Then the obvious thing to do there, guys, is firstly, you must make sure you do not shout. So cut shouting out for good. And this could also mean trying to speak louder. So what I mean by the second one is, say you're in a club, in a bar where there's a bit of music and you're talking to someone, but because of the music, you have to talk louder. So project your voice a bit more. That is a no-no. So if I were you, if you're in scenarios like that, then try not to talk much at all, or basically don't get yourself in those scenarios. So don't go clubbing or to the bar as much. Do things like maybe go restaurant more where there might not be music, or just go out and do a few other things with friends that are, you know, a bit less about talking, and maybe more activities that you know, or get you to be talking less. And the other thing is, in general, just basically, if you are having problems when you're talking and you're in pain for even within a minute or two of talking, then really, guys, generally what you need to do there is just talk less for a period of weeks or even months. I know this is hard, and this was one of the hardest things for me, if I was to be honest. And I also had problems with eating. However, it's the talking that's not easy, because if you're going through a struggle anyways, you want to go out there, you want to be talking to your family, you want to hang out with them, you want to hang out with friends. And a part of that is talking. So if you can't talk, that's not amazing, but it's just something you absolutely have to do. I know a lot of people, when it comes to vocal things, are always like, oh, have a hot drink, have a tea with lemon, this is going to be amazing, and things like that. Do not do this. Trust me when I say this. Do not have a hot drink when you are having throat problems, especially if you've identified that there's inflammation in there. So to identify this, either you've been to the GP or you yourself can tell that there's a burning feeling, there's burning pain. You need to cut out hot drinks. They're no good for you. Think about it. If you've just, burned your tongue because you ate some soup that was really hot, or you drank a really hot tea, if you've burnt it, are you then going to go and put more hot water over it? No, you're not. Now, are you someone who does like to have a hot drink, like tea, like coffee? Do it, but let it cool down. So say boiling is 100 degrees really. So when it's not on the boil, it's somewhere maybe around 80, 90 degrees. So I would say to you, let the tea come down to maybe like 60 degrees. 50 degrees even. So another thing you can do when it comes to your vocals or that side of your throat, obviously there's muscles around there. And in fact, one of the main reasons that after, say, a throat infection or things like that, you're having problems with your throat is because of your muscles. Your muscles are tighter. So here's a couple of things you can do to help the muscle side of things. One is do stretches, okay? So look up some stretches for the neck. So obviously you've got your neck muscles as well in your throat. So things like side to side stretches for the throat are good. Things like stretching backwards, that can really help stretch the throat and where your vocals are. So stretches are really good. So you can look online, just Google it up on what you can do. Or another thing you can do is do a bit of vocal training. So you can do things like blowing through a straw in a glass with water, or you can do things like do vocal and singing training really. So you can look up what singers do in order to keep their throats maintained. Okay, so those things will help you a lot, and they'll start loosening up the muscles. What's another thing that can help? Are you someone who likes baths, or are you not someone who likes baths? Either way, having a bath in warm water can really, really help loosen up your muscles. Or things like massaging, acupuncture, reflexology, all of these things help your muscles relax. And here is the important part. It's not just about your muscles in your throat. This is what I've been told by many, many people who are in the sort of physical therapy industry. It's not just about getting the throat muscles to relax. Your whole body is connected to the throat, so especially the upper body. So if you can create a situation whereby you're relaxing all of the muscles in the upper body at least, but even your whole body, these muscles will relax too. So let's now talk about the food side of things. Food can be one of the things that can really, really make your throat worse. Now, the main issues I found when I was eating are these. So if, say, I had big portions, that was bad. So do not have really big meals. That can be really bad. The food that you're eating, the more solid it is, or the more coarse that it is, and the less you chew it, this can make your throat worse. I think you basically fall into what is called esophagitis, which is basically an inflammation of your esophagus, or at least the top of it, where your throat kind of opens and closes to allow the food in. Okay, so you have a sort of valve at the top. It's not the same as your lower valve, but it kind of opens and shuts to allow the food in and out. So if you're eating really big portions, I find that if your muscles are obviously strained, and that's why it's doing this, it's pushing its way through your muscles, it's forcing its way through. And by doing that, it's causing an irritation, okay? And you fall into things like esophagitis. So one of the first things you can do is decrease the size of your portions, but also make sure the type of food you're having is not really solid foods and it's not coarse foods. Like crackers, for example, no good. Food like that, you need to cut it out. Also things like nuts. Most nuts are no good because they're rough. So they're gonna go through your throat and they're gonna be pushing themselves through. And not just that, they get sticky, they can get stuck in your throat easier and things like that. So the more you're doing this, the worse you're gonna find your throat is. And then the rest of your day is gonna be ruined once you start doing that. So what do you have to do in order to help yourself there? So what can you do to help yourself there? Well, firstly, don't do the normal 3 meals a day and sizable portions. Start doing maybe 5 meals a day, or spread your meals out to more meals a day, but make sure every time you have a meal that it's smaller portions that you're having, okay? So decrease your portions and increase the amount of meals you have over the day. Equally, you don't have to obviously do that. You can still have your 3 meals for the day, but I would massively, massively recommend that you lower the amount that you're eating per meal. Make sure, this is really important, make sure you're chewing your food really, really well. And in fact, what some people will do, it's not my favorite thing personally, but I have tried it a bit and it does help. Some people even will go through the effort of crushing their food, so putting it in a blender or a mixer and crushing their food and sort of eating it like that, or doing more things like soups, but obviously making sure the temperature isn't too high because that can affect the inflammation in your throat. When you're eating big portions, it is massively affecting the UES. The food, your muscle is basically, for some reason, you've got a lot of tension in your throat and it's affecting that valve, right? So it's really, really squashed up. And then as food is trying to get through, if it's big portions, it's literally pushing its way through that valve. And by doing that, it's really irritating it, okay? Trust me when I say this, you've got to lower your portions, make your food as soft as you can, okay? Because the more solid it is, the harder it's going to be for it to get through. I don't want to get too technical about what I'm saying because I want to make sure you guys get the best understanding of you know, the problems and how you can quickly start to alleviate them. And of course, personally, what would I do? I would actually stick to water only. Do not do anything else. Now, here is a caveat to that though, and this is a bit of an interesting one. Now, if you have throat problems and you can tell it's to do with the eating side of things, I know it's counterintuitive to do something like drink fizzy drinks. However, here's the really interesting thing that I found. when I was at my worst and I was eating food and it was like, my throat was just completely not accepting it. I felt like things were getting stuck. I felt like I had a ball in my throat. This was really hampering my talking capabilities. I remember we went out for a friend's birthday and it was a really bad day. I could barely speak without being in pain, right? And my friends were even like, Pan, are you all right? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. I woke up the next morning. It was still not very good. Guess what I did that day? And I didn't do it on purpose. I just did it anyways because I felt like it. I drank some Sprite and it loosened up my muscles in my throat. I kid you not. So if you're at your worst with this and you're finding that you're having problems burping, which is what I had, okay? I couldn't burp for weeks or for months, and I'm someone who there's people who can't burp, but there's others who find it quite easy to create a situation where they can burp, right? And burping can really, really alleviate some stress from your throat. So it was really sticky. I just couldn't do it. And I found that the pressure that fizzy drinks were causing, so it would go into the stomach, and then obviously soon after we kind of relax and a burp comes. It opens up your throat, and I'm telling you, I went from one day hardly being able to talk, feeling really low and bad, to the next day drinking a Sprite, burping a bit, and suddenly I found that I could talk a bit more, and it was great. So if you're at your worst, you'll find that this can really help you. However, when things start to get a bit better anyways after a few months, etc., then really personally what I would do is I would cut out everything except water. Just be on water. So some of you watching this might be aware that you have a hiatus hernia, or some call it hiatal hernia. Others, you might not even realize that you have this, but also there might be a few of you watching this and you don't have a hiatus hernia. It's basically a bulge just above the stomach, where the food pipe joins the stomach. So you may have done something like you've put a lot of pressure in your stomach and bam, you've popped the sort of lower part of the food pipe where it joins the stomach, okay? So that's a hiatus hernia. And what is the problem with the hiatus hernia? It could lead to you having silent reflux, okay? So your stomach is full of acid when you're eating, and actually can be full of acid even when you're not eating. And some people even say that when you're on an empty stomach, your throat can be even worse sometimes. So let's break it down very quickly. Just above your stomach, you have the lower food valve, okay? So this opens and shuts to let the food in, but it then shuts so that it doesn't let acid back up. What a hiatus hernia unfortunately does is it weakens your valve here, and what that does is it allows the acid, or the GERD as it's called, to flow up the food pipe, and then what happens is it gets to the upper valve here, and some of it even escapes from the valve. Have you ever burped and you felt food come up? Basically, it's that kind of thing. It's allowing that to happen more often without you even needing to burp. Okay, and then what can happen is it comes up to the throat and it starts to spray out of there a bit, and it goes into your vocals. Okay, so you're talking and it can do that, and then you're in pain because you've got acid that's been spraying over. And if you have a look here, the vocals and the upper food valve, they're near each other. So you see, that's what can happen. So guys, literally GERD, silent reflux, stomach acid problems. I've got a whole other video for this, so I can't spend too much time talking about this because today's more about the throat. The things that you can do to help yourself with this problem is similarly to earlier when I said lower your portion. So every time you're eating, don't eat too much. If you have really big meals that are going to bloat you, it's more likely that you're going to have that acid come up, okay? Also, very important, when you're going to sleep, try not to eat within at least 2 hours of when you sleep. I would even say 3. Hey guys, so if you did like the the video so far, please do press the like button. Please also feel free to comment by the end of the video if you yourself have any sort of advice to give on throat problems. And please do subscribe, guys. I know we like to remind you a lot when you're watching these videos, but even people who are conscious of sort of pressing the like button or subscribing and things like that, they themselves sometimes forget when they're watching a video. So little subtle reminder. So now on to the third section, which is to do with allergies. I'm telling you, allergies can make your throat really, really bad. Okay, this could be you're eating stuff that is causing a bit of an allergic or intolerant reaction in your body, but also external things like the air in your house not being fresh, being too dry, etc. Trust me, these kinds of things can cause allergies. For example, dust mites. I was living before a few, sort of 6 months ago, I moved out of my last place and moved into my new place because I started to realize that where I was living, the dust mites were really bad. And even though I tried to do things that would help, like get an air purifier or do things like get a dehumidifier and things like that, I was finding that it wasn't helping as much. And I'm telling you now, dust mites are a massive thing. People underestimate the allergies that dust mites can cause. So if you're having some issues with this, get yourself an air purifier. Obviously, if it's your lovely home that you can't move out of and you don't want to move out of, you've got to do things like getting an air purifier. Make sure you're cleaning the house more often. You've got to cut out these dust mites. It's really, really important. So what is another thing you can do to help yourself with allergies? Well, you can get some Pirites, okay? This is an antihistamine or anything similar to that, any antihistamine that is similar. You can get the really strong ones, but the problem is they cause drowsiness. So what I would do is you can get them off the shelf at a shop. You can go get something like Pirites. And you take one a day. It doesn't cause drowsiness on most occasions. There might be people who maybe don't have as great an effect. It doesn't affect them in the same way as most others. So maybe you will get drowsiness. But as far as I know, antihistamines like Pirites, they don't cause drowsiness. So that's another thing you can do for the dust mite or food allergies. So part 4 is about the upper body. So stressing the upper body. So I started going to the gym and I was doing muscle workouts, okay? And every time I was doing the upper body ones, especially chest or like standing up, and your sort of upper body is taking the brunt of what you're doing. Every time I would walk away from the gym session that day, I was noticing that my throat was worse. And it's because of that thing I said earlier. Your muscles are all connected, right? Your throat might be here, and obviously you can do things that will affect you there worse. But any upper body exercise I found was creating a lot of tension. So personally, if you're at the worst times of your throat problems, and if you can see that they're muscular problems, I would say you need to cut out muscle work at the gym completely for a bit. So go a few weeks without doing muscle workouts, do more cardio maybe, make sure you're hydrating well. Even if you go a few months without doing upper body exercise, guys, that will help you. If you're not at the worst parts of your throat problems, then what I would say to you is do lighter muscle workouts. So maybe don't do the really, obviously you have a threshold of how far you can go. Maybe do lighter exercise for the muscles, okay? So that you can slowly get back in it. And if you're seeing it's not affecting you, then see where your new threshold is. But obviously when you're going to do the heavier weights, then you might likely start feeling it again, okay? So you need to find where the balance is for you. So the fifth and last area we're going to talk about is stress and anxiety, so emotions. Stress and anxiety can be one of the worst things for your throat. Honestly, any day that I'm really stressed out, anxious, I don't know, because of work, because of family problems, because of problems with friends, honestly, I find that those days can be some of the worst for my throat. I start having a hoarse voice, blah, blah, blah. all of that emotion impacts the throat. And once again, it impacts the muscles, okay? Why is your voice hoarse suddenly? Because your muscles are tightening up because you are stressed. So what must you do? You must try your best to do things that are causing as less stress as possible, okay? Are you finding yourself being angry? You got to do things that get you to be less angry. Are you finding that work is really stressing you out? You got to find a way to lower that stress. Are you in the right job? Have you wanted to move jobs, change jobs for a while? Maybe it's the time to do that. If you're comfortable to do that, if you're okay with money. If you're not okay with money, then maybe you have to open up to your boss, or it could be you're your own boss, whatever. You have to come to terms that stress is causing you problems. Another big thing, guys, to help you relax, sleeping. Sleeping is a massive one, guys. When you're sleeping, your muscles are as relaxed as they can be. And not just that, your energy is being replenished. You're not as tired. So I would say to you, a massive thing to do with the emotional side of things, or to do even with, it's to do with the emotional and the physical side of things. Get enough sleep. Make sure you're sleeping at least 7 hours a night. I would really recommend even 8 if you can. Sleeping is massively important. It will help your muscles relax. It will help your energy come up. It will help stress go away. Everything to do with all of that. Get enough sleep. Anyways, guys, so that was the 5 main areas that I found can impact the throat. And obviously, I briefly went through what you can do to alleviate some of those problems. And a lot of it is to actually do with doing less of something, right? So talking less, eating smaller portions of food, not shouting, okay? Really important. I really hope you enjoyed that. If you do want to see more, then please check out some of the videos that are popping up now at the end of the video. A really important one as well will be the hiatus hernia, which I'm going to upload a video on that soon. If you can't see that yet, guys, it will pop up soon. Thank you very much. I'm Pan Michael. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned, and I hope this can really help you out. And we'll speak soon. Take care.